I never thought a forgotten security camera would save my career and destroy his. But there I was, at 9 p.m. on a Friday, staring at footage that would change everything. My name is Robert, and this is my hidden story. My hands trembled as I watched my boss do something that made my stomach turn. Something that explained why 3 good people had mysteriously quit in the past 6 months. Something that would finally give me the ammunition I needed to fight back. For 5 years, I worked as a senior project manager at a tech consulting firm in Chicago. At 40, I thought I'd seen it all in corporate America. The politics, the backstabbing, the endless meetings that could have been emails. But nothing prepared me for Gregory Hartman. Gregory became our department head 18 months ago, and from day one, he made it clear that our lives were about to change. He had this way of smiling that never reached his eyes, like a predator sizing up prey. During his first team meeting, he announced new productivity standards that would require at least 60 hours a week from everyone. When someone asked about overtime pay, he laughed. Not a genuine laugh, but something cold and dismissive. He said dedication couldn't be measured in dollars. I remember thinking I should have quit right then. But with 2 kids in college and a mortgage that seemed to grow every month, I convinced myself I could handle it. I'd dealt with difficult bosses before. How bad could it really get? The answer came quickly. Gregory had a gift for making overtime feel mandatory without ever putting it in writing. He'd schedule critical client meetings at 4:45 p.m., knowing they'd run for hours. He'd send urgent emails at 8 p.m. demanding reports by morning. But the worst part was how he'd frame it. He'd say things like, "If you really cared about the team's success, you'd stay." Or, I guess some people just aren't cut out for leadership roles. The manipulation was subtle but effective. We all started staying later, coming in earlier, working weekends. Our personal lives crumbled while Gregory collected praise from upper management for our department's increased productivity. He even got a bonus. A substantial one, I later learned. Meanwhile, we got exhaustion and resentment. Sarah from accounting was the first to break. Single mother of 2, she tried to explain that she couldn't work past 6 because of daycare. Gregory's response was to question her commitment to her career. Within a month, her responsibilities were gradually shifted to others, her important projects reassigned. She quit 2 weeks later, tears in her eyes as she packed her desk. Then came James, our best developer. 20 years with the company, never a complaint. But when his wife was diagnosed with cancer, and he requested a flexible schedule for her chemotherapy appointments, Gregory made his life hell. Suddenly, James's code was never good enough. His ideas were outdated. His presence in meetings was questioned. The day James resigned, I saw Gregory smirk. Actually smirk. The third was Linda, our HR liaison. She tried to file a formal complaint about the working conditions. Somehow, Gregory found out before the paperwork was processed. Her position was eliminated due to restructuring. Just like that, gone. By month 6 of Gregory's reign, our department was a ghost town after 5 p.m., but not because people were going home. We were all there, prisoners in our cubicles, afraid to be the first to leave. The stress was killing us. I developed migraines. My colleague Tom started having panic attacks. Everyone whispered about looking for new jobs, but Gregory had connections everywhere. Word traveled fast in our industry. Nobody wanted to hire someone who couldn't handle pressure. I started documenting everything, every unreasonable request, every subtle threat, every manipulation. My wife thought I was becoming obsessed, and maybe I was, but I needed evidence, real evidence, the kind that would stick. That's when I remembered the security camera. Our office had undergone renovations the previous year, and they'd installed new security cameras everywhere. Most were obvious, those black domes in the corners. But there was one in the supply closet, an old model from the previous system that IT had forgotten to remove. Still functional, still recording, still accessible through the old security portal that I'd bookmarked years ago when I was briefly on the safety committee. I didn't plan to use it for anything nefarious. I just wanted to check if it had captured any of Gregory's more egregious behavior. Maybe him berating someone in the hallway, or one of his famous closed-door intimidation sessions. What I found was so much worse. It started innocently enough. I stayed late one Friday, waiting until the office was empty. I logged into the old security system, my heart pounding like I was committing a crime. The camera had a clear view of the hallway leading to Gregory's office. I started scrolling through footage from the past few months, fast-forwarding through hours of nothing. Then I saw it. Or rather, I saw them. Gregory wasn't just manipulating our work hours. He was falsifying client billing records. The footage showed him, clear as day, at his computer after hours, pulling up project timesheets. I watched him systematically inflate the hours reported to clients, adding phantom overtime that none of us had worked. He was billing clients for our unpaid overtime, then pocketing the difference. But that wasn't even the worst part. I kept watching, my disbelief growing with each minute of footage. Gregory had a partner. Someone from accounting was helping him, someone who had access to modify the billing system. Together, they'd created ghost employees, fake consultants who existed only on paper but billed full-time hours to our biggest clients. The money was being funneled somewhere, and based on Gregory's new Mercedes and sudden talk of a vacation home, I had a pretty good guess where. My hands shook as I copied the footage to multiple drives. This wasn't just about forced overtime anymore. This was fraud. Federal crime-level fraud. The kind that destroys companies and sends people to prison. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. My wife kept asking what was wrong, but how could I explain? I was sitting on a bomb that could destroy Gregory, but also potentially harm the company I'd given 5 years of my life to. Our clients would lose faith. People would lose jobs. Good people who had nothing to do with Gregory's schemes. Monday morning, I walked into the office feeling like I was carrying a live grenade. Gregory was there, of course, earlier than everyone else, making a show of his dedication. He gave me that predator smile and asked if I'd finished the Morrison report. I had, despite working until midnight on Sunday. But looking at him, knowing what I knew, I felt something shift inside me. I told him no, simple as that. No, I hadn't finished it. His face changed, that mask of professional concern sliding into place. He suggested we discuss my performance in his office. The old me would have panicked, would have apologized and promised to do better, but I wasn't the old me anymore. I said I was busy. Maybe later. The look of shock on his face was almost worth the months of hell. Almost. By lunch, Gregory was circling like a shark. He sent 3 emails about the Morrison report, each more aggressive than the last. He scheduled a mandatory meeting for 5 p.m., knowing I'd mentioned my daughter's soccer game. He was pushing, testing, trying to reassert control. I spent my lunch hour at a lawyer's office. Not the company lawyer, obviously. A friend from law school who specialized in corporate whistleblowing. She watched the footage, her expression growing more serious with each passing minute. When it was over, she had only one question. Was I prepared for what came next? I thought about Sarah crying at her desk, James broken by grief and Gregory's cruelty, Linda discarded like trash, all the nights I'd missed with my family, all the stress, the fear, the exhaustion. Yes, I was ready. The process was faster than I expected. My lawyer contacted the FBI's white-collar crime division. They were very interested in our evidence. Within days, there were discreet interviews, financial audits conducted under the pretense of routine reviews. Gregory had no idea the walls were closing in. I kept going to work, playing the part of the defeated employee. Gregory grew bolder, perhaps sensing my apparent submission. He publicly criticized my work in team meetings. He reassigned my best projects. He even suggested I might want to consider whether I was still a good fit for the company, all while stealing hundreds of thousands from the clients who trusted us. The end came on a Thursday. I was in the break room when I heard the commotion. Federal agents, walking through our office like they owned the place, which, in a way, they did. They went straight to Gregory's office. Through the glass walls, I watched his face transform from confusion to anger to fear. Real fear. The kind I'd seen on Sarah's face, on James's, on Linda's. They let him out in handcuffs, right through the middle of the office, past all the employees he'd terrorized, past the empty desks of those he'd driven away. He looked at me as they passed, and in that moment, he knew. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just met his eyes and nodded slightly. The aftermath was chaotic. Emergency meetings, damage control, client reassurance. The company survived barely. The woman from accounting who'd helped Gregory went down too. Turns out she was his mistress, which explained a lot. Together, they'd stolen nearly $2 million over 18 months. I was offered Gregory's position. I turned it down. Instead, I negotiated a consultant role, working from home, setting my own hours. Real flexibility, not the fake kind where you're always on call. The company was too grateful and too scared of lawsuits to refuse. But the real victory came later. Sarah got her job back with back pay and a formal apology. James received a settlement that helped cover his wife's medical bills. Linda was offered her choice of positions in any department. The company implemented real oversight, real protections for employees. Anonymous reporting systems that actually worked. Mandatory work-life balance policies with teeth. I still have the security footage saved on a drive in my home safe. Sometimes I take it out and look at it, not to relive the trauma, but to remind myself that standing up to bullies is worth it. That evidence matters. That one person can make a difference. Gregory got 8 years in federal prison. Not enough in my opinion, but justice rarely feels like enough when you've lived through injustice. I heard he's working in the prison kitchen now. Mandatory overtime with no pay. There's poetry in that, I suppose. My migraine stopped the week after he was arrested. Tom's panic attacks faded away. The ghost town atmosphere in our office transformed into something almost pleasant. People smiled again. They left at reasonable hours. They took vacations without fear. Sometimes new employees ask about the crazy overtime stories they've heard. The old-timers just shake their heads and change the subject. It's not that we're trying to forget. We're just focused on moving forward, on building something better from the ashes of Gregory's empire of fear. I learned something valuable through all of this. Bullies rely on silence. They count on their victims being too scared, too tired, too beaten down to fight back. They create environments where speaking up seems more dangerous than suffering in silence. But they always make mistakes. They get greedy. They get sloppy. They forget that the people they step on might be keeping receipts. Every time I work from my home office now, looking out at my garden instead of gray cubicle walls, I think about that forgotten security camera. Such a small thing, an overlooked detail in the grand scheme of corporate bureaucracy. But it was enough. Sometimes that's all you need. One piece of evidence, one moment of courage, one decision to say enough is enough. The funny thing is, I never set out to be a hero. I just wanted to work my 40 hours, collect my paycheck, and go home to my family. But sometimes life forces you to choose between your comfort and your conscience, between security and justice, between suffering in silence and speaking truth to power. I chose to speak, and while it wasn't easy, while it cost me sleep and peace of mind and nearly my sanity, it was worth it. Every single minute of fear and uncertainty was worth seeing Gregory's face when he realized his kingdom of overtime and intimidation had crumbled. Now, when young employees come to me with concerns about unfair treatment, I listen, really listen. I tell them to document everything, to trust their instincts, to remember that no job is worth their dignity or their health. And if they need help, if they need someone to believe them, I'm here. Because that's what we owe each other in this corporate world that too often forgets we're human. We owe each other the courage to stand up, to speak out, to refuse to let the Gregory Hartmans of the world win. We owe each other the reminder that sometimes justice isn't just possible. Sometimes it's inevitable. The security camera still records that hallway, upgraded now to high definition. IT offered to remove it during the last renovation, but I asked them to keep it. Not because I expect to need it again, but as a reminder. A monument to the day everything changed. The day the hunters became the hunted. The day overtime became evidence. The day we took back our lives.